Hello everyone, this is Aman Chaudhary, and in today's video I'm going to be going over how to apply to grad school in the US as an international student, like what are the requirements and just the whole process in general. So if you look at the US map, there's a lot of states and I think there's 5,300, more than 5,000 universities in the US. So which university to apply to or what requirements are for each university, we're going to be going over that. But in general, the requirements for the grad school as an international student are, I'm just going to be going over the general requirements. So each school may have more requirements, so you will have to go to each school's website to look at the requirements. So general requirements include GPA requirement. Most schools have a requirement of 3.0, but some programs like engineering especially, I've noticed that most schools for engineering degree require you to have 3.3 GPA minimum. I don't know what the conversion would be on another country scale, but you can look it up, Google it. And but some universities have a requirement of 2.7 GPA, 3.5 GPA, so but mostly it's 3.0 ish. The second requirement is to obviously have a bachelor's degree. Now, most students think that you need to have a master's degree as well to apply to PhD programs, but that is not correct. Um, as long as I know, I've only researched for engineering, and I know it's the same for business, but I don't know about the other schools. I'm pretty sure the other schools don't require a master's degree. We can do a quick Google search as well. Do you need to have master's to get a PhD? You do not. Okay, yeah. So you do not need a master's degree. You can get your master's along your way when you're doing the PhD. So you can apply straight to PhD like I did. So my background, I guess I should give you a little bit of my background after I finish with the requirements. So GPA, having a bachelor's degree in the field you're applying a master's or PhD in, or a related field. What happened? Okay, sorry. In a related field. So for example, I got electrical engineering bachelor's degree, and then I applied to space engineering, aerospace, electrical, not mechanical, but there's robotics. So any related degree, you can apply to the related degree as well. You just have to look at the requirements. And then, so GPA, having a bachelor's degree. Okay, so you need to have a you need to write a statement of purpose. Now you can go to Google, look up the statement of purpose requirement, what you need to write, like how it's supposed to be formal, informal. I just watched YouTube videos on how to write the statement of purpose while I was applying, so you can do that too. There's some great videos there. And then you need 3 letters of recommendation. And just something to note, the letter of recommendation that you're asking, so which professor you're asking for, I would suggest ask from professors who if they personally know you. So if you have a good grade in a class and the professor knows you've been participating, you should ask that professor. You can ask your research professor, or just like a professor who personally knows you would be a good idea and would write something positive about you. And most people so letter of recommendations are very underrated. And fun fact, university did not select me because one of my letter of recommendations mentioned some negative things about me. I think in the last semester I didn't really pay attention to the class due to COVID. I wasn't really active. I had a B in the class. Usually I'm an A student, so yeah, that professor changed his letter after seeing my progress in class, and that really affected my admission, so they did not select me because of the letter of recommendation. Okay, then we have, God, I wrote down some requirements and I cannot find them, so sorry, but No, I can't pause this because of the Zoom recording. I'm so sorry. Okay, we can look at the, so as an international student, you need to have English proficiency test in most schools. I would say about 90% of schools require that. And that is TOEFL or IELTS, I think. And you also need to take the GRE, but due to COVID, it was waived. So I didn't have to take the GRE, and some schools do not require GRE. For example, MIT Electrical Engineering program doesn't require GRE. So when I say these are the general requirements, not every university requires these things. They might require something else. But these are just general requirements. Okay, so I think that's all, but we can come back to the requirements if I remember anything. I cannot find a list. Okay. Next, as I mentioned, there's over 5,000 schools in the US, so what school you should apply to should highly depend on your research interest. So for example, if you like robotics, you should look up best schools for robotics in the US. So there's two ways you can go about this. You can read research papers. This is a great website to read research papers for free online. But this is limited to a few subjects. So you can look up, for example, if your major is physics, you can search physics subjects, then you can search, so there's like a field like physics, and there's branches or focus areas in physics. So physics can include optics, magnetism, anything. So let's say you like electromagnetism in physics. You can look that up, and then there's a ton of research papers. As you can see, there's like multiple pages and a lot of research papers. You can look at the title, see if you're interested in this. I don't know what that is, but if you're interested in, if this research is something you would want to do as a PhD student, you can open that paper, read a little bit about it, and then look at which university was it published from, and then look up that university. And then so this is also not, I think this is like all over the world, so this looks like China, but I don't know, it should say inside the research paper. You can open the PDF, and where is it? Okay, it's still loading. So that's a very long process, looking at each research paper, looking at the university, reading it. I'm sure no one would want to do that, but a lot of people do it, especially for those people to whom research matters the most when picking a grad school, because you're going to be doing that for 6 years, and you don't want to pick something you don't like doing. But in general, research matters the most as well. I've heard everybody say that, and it's true. The next thing that matters is location. So where in the US do you want to go? If you don't like snow, you wouldn't want to go to Colorado, for example. It snows sometimes. So weather matters, location matters. Some places are really expensive, like New York compared to Texas. Your pay would matter. Just as an example, New York apartments are about, I would say, $2,000 per like one bedroom apartment, and Texas are only like $700. There's a huge difference between the cost of living in each state. And of course, you would get more funding in New York compared to Texas as well. I think because R's and T's, which we'll talk about later, their funding depends on the state that you're living in as well. It just varies by a few $100s. So for example, if you're a TA in Atlanta, your pay can be $2,000 per month, or let's say $2,400 per month. And then in Colorado, it's going to be, let's say, $2,200 per month. So a difference of $200. But yeah, cost of living matters. If you're worried more about financial aid, which school gives you the most financial aid would be the one you should be choosing. And so, yeah, a couple of things to notice are the research while picking your school, or research, location, how much funding each school gives you in the end, and acceptance rate matters a lot too. What are your acceptance rates? rate is just your likelihood of being admitted to that school. So if the acceptance rate is 75%, that means they accept 75 out of 100 students. And if it's only like 5%, they only accept 5 people out of 100 people. So you don't want to apply to a 5% acceptance rate school if your GPA was, let's say, 2.7, because there is no way I think you can get into the school with that low. Well, first of all, they wouldn't admit you because their requirement wouldn't be 2.7 if the acceptance rate is 5. But anyways, acceptance rate, availability of funds, yeah, all those things matter while picking your school. Now, how can you check all these things? Like, how do you know what school gets more funds? A couple of things you can do here are, for example, if your major is engineering, you can go to, let's see, where is that website? Yeah, you can look up what school gets the most funding. And most schools, when it comes to engineering, get their funding from NASA. So you can look up what schools get the most NASA funds every year. So this is a list of the schools. So I know Georgia Institute of Technology got a lot of funding there. I looked it up. So these are the schools you would want to apply to or look up. Like, once you know that these schools have the funding, you can go to the next step, which is looking up what is the acceptance rate like. A lot of my friends I know who are international students want to come to the US for education. They don't have a very good GPA, so they would really want to check the acceptance rate for each school. Or you can, instead of checking for the funds, or like if you just want to look at the acceptance rate, you can look up best. So the first step is to know what you're interested in doing. So if you like robotics or anything, like if you are electrical engineering major, you can put it here, like best universities in the US for XYZ. And then you can search up you can look at the Google list. These are the best schools for robotics. But so if you're an A+ student and you're very much great student, you can just apply to, the very first one, not even caring about like the acceptance rate if you're like a brilliant student. But a lot of students I know, again, do not have a good GPA, so they would want to go down this list and see what school has a higher acceptance rate. So to be safe, I would look at the school with at least 50% acceptance rate. So 8%, that's very low. So I would just keep going. So 44% is somewhat good. But if you want to be more safer, you would want higher acceptance rate. These are all really good schools for this major. So you shouldn't worry about, like, if they're great schools, they have a variety and ton of funds as well in that field. That's like a general principle. There may be exceptions, but that's like the basic rule. And so you need to worry about the acceptance rate and also the funding. These numbers do not tell you that this is how much your school is going to cost and this is how much you will have to pay your tuition. I think this might just be the undergrad. There's a difference for the graduate courses, and it also depends on the number of classes you're taking. So you shouldn't look at this. What you can look at is it public or is it private? Most of the private universities have less funding. So Stanford has very much less funding. Even if you're a great student, they don't have much funding for you because actually, I don't know why. Sorry. But yeah, because it's private, yes. So look at the public universities and high acceptance rate. So I saw 77 somewhere. Yeah, this one. Cincinnati. Okay, yeah, it's a good school in Ohio. The way I know it's a good school is because it's in this list. So yeah. Again, if your major is something else, mechanical engineering, you can put that in here. And then Okay, it tells you bachelor's associates. So rankings do not matter that much as your research matters when it comes to grad school. That is something also I learned later on, but that's also something to keep in mind when applying. Also, you can look at this website is also a great website, usnews.com. I hope I'm not going very much over time. Oh God. Okay, should I do a part 2? Okay, I'll do a part 2 after this. Okay, so usnews.com is also a valid website other than Google to look at the university rankings. I pulled up the best universities for, I think, business, and this is what came up first. But the problem with this is that you have to keep clicking next, next, next until you look at like it gives you one university at one page, and so you have to keep clicking next, and if your internet is slow, it's going to take forever. And at the very end, page 51, it gives you the entire list. So that's why I would tend to go with the Google search, because it's very easy to search. It's a lot faster. I'll do a part 2. How about that? Sorry, guys.